I'd read a page and I'm like, all right, I kind of feel comfortable. And then there'd be a paragraph like, warning, nothing can prepare you for what's about to happen. I'm like, oh shit, that sounds scary. I'd read another page and I'm like, all right, I feel a little bit better. And then another warning, same warning, like copied and pasted. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome aboard the MAX Afterburner Podcast, sponsored, powered, brought to you by the No Fallen Heroes Universe and Sacred Warrior Fellowship. And this one is actually brought to you by the universe. And I'm gonna channel the big one, God. This one, let me give you some background before I introduce our incredibly special guest. So go listen to episode 7 of the MAX Afterburner Podcast. That's my first debrief after sitting with the sacrament of ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT. And you all know, recovering Catholic, sexually abused as a kid, losing a sister to a drunk driver, military trauma. I lost my faith, man. I could not have been more disconnected from God, my bride, my kids, my purpose. And waking up that next morning in Mexico, surrounded by an incredible group of guys. I don't use these words lightly. I was born again. I got a clean piece of paper. I had a direct connection with God, oneness, Christ consciousness. You fill in the blank, man. It was without a doubt the most spiritual and religious experience of my life. So obviously that gave birth to No Fallen Heroes, and we've been providing grants and scholarships to veterans, first responders, and their families for the past year 5? Yeah, year 5. And then last summer, I was about to say God did this, but of course God absolutely did it. I just started getting a download of, and I was rereading my old journals, and I'm like, my God, as a recovering Catholic, I was taught that the body and blood of Jesus, after the priest does his magic through what is called transubstantiation, that actually becomes the physical body and blood of Jesus Christ. And I said, man, that what happened to me was a sacrament. These compounds are sacraments, and there's no way in hell on God's green earth I would have ever thought that 57 years after popping onto this planet that I'd be starting a church, a fellowship. And I'll be honest with you, the word church kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit, but that's why we're going to dig into it, because you really don't need dogma. You don't need a dude with a funny hat to stand between you and God. So this summer I said, you know what, Susie? She's like, now what? I'm like, we're starting a church. So we started a church called Sacred Warrior Fellowship to use these compounds religiously and to reconnect folks with the divine within, to return home to God. And hand to God, the day after I did all this stuff, submitted it, the 508C, all sorts of stuff, across my computer comes a headline: federal judge rules in favor of psilocybin church in Utah. I'm like, there's no way this happened. So I started doing some research. I jumped online, read about this case, and ladies and gentlemen, today, Bridger Lee Jensen is joining me from snowy Utah, my brother. Thanks for joining us, man. But so folks, I read, we're going to get into his background and all that stuff. The legal stuff can come, but I got to be honest with you, this guy, we're going to look back in history at this guy and the things he's doing, and his beautiful partner and what they're doing in Utah. Folks, I served this country for 15 years. I buried 16 buddies. I buried 4 F-18 brothers to suicide. I defended the Constitution of the United States. And now I'm going to exercise the rights underneath it, man. It doesn't get any more basic than the first one, right? Congress shall make no law. Now, I'm a political science major from South Jersey, so I'm going to say that again. Congress shall make no law, right, establishing a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It's the First Amendment, right, folks? And then we'll dig into this in a little bit, bro. But they had to actually come out with a Religious Freedom, Restoration Act to even tighten things up even more because churches and spirituality were under attack in this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bridger Lee Jensen from Singularism, welcome aboard, my brother. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, and what an introduction. I'm honored to be here, and I want to say amen. Everything you just said, that's right. To think that before they even talked about freedom of speech, before they even talked about freedom of the press, before they talked about the right to defend yourself, they spoke about Congress shall pass no law regarding the establishment of a religion. We cannot monitor or control that. That was what the judge in my case said. This is America's greatest gift to the world. Was the first country that institutionally protected all religions. That is America's greatest gift to the world. Is the first thing they thought to write down because if you really put yourself in the founding fathers' shoes, I'm sorry, you got me on my soapbox too, brother. Like Constitution, right?
Preach.
And I think they sat there and they thought, first of all, what gives us the right? If we're going to overthrow this tyrant, what gives us the right to say we're better and that we have the right to control people either? Because I think they sat there and they said, people should just be free. And so these founding fathers, say what you will against them or about them or their problems or the historical things at the time, but they really sat there and they thought, what is the most basic right we have? They're like the right to worship, to think, to feel, and to commune with the Almighty in any way we want. And that's the first thing they thought to protect, even above speech. And that says something about the fundamental right. So I'm just with you. And the synchronicity of you reading about that the day after, I can talk all day about this. I'm excited to speak with you.
I love it, man. I ran out of my home office to Susie. I'm like, look at this headline. She's like, wait, that just happened. I'm like, we did this yesterday, and then this headline comes out. I'm like, we have got to be divinely guided. There's no way that this is not a sign. So let's back up though from getting raided and thrown in jail. Where are you from? What's your, for lack of a better word, religious background? How did you go from, popping onto this planet to Singularism?
I was raised in a religious household in Utah. Of course, the first thing you're going to think is fundamental Mormon or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I'd say, yes, full 9 yards. I was raised in the shadow of Brigham Young University. My father was a professor there. I grew up practically on the campus, steeped. I won the Scripture Master Championship there. I was really a scriptorian in the Bible and the Book of Mormon. Wow. I served a mission in upstate New York, loved it, ups and downs. I did the full Mormon thing, and I was about 25. And you mentioned a minute ago writing in your journal, and you actually mentioned what I feel passionate about is rereading your journal. So our whole platform is I was journaling a lot, and I journaled, what would I believe? I spent a year writing this, and I said, what would I believe if I had not the upbringing I had? And I started writing as if I knew nothing. And a year later, I realized I don't believe in any of this. And it made me put journaling away for 10 years. I thought, no, that threatens your community. It threatens your marriage. It threatened a lot of things, even my career and profession. And in this more LDS dominated culture out here, it felt like I was giving up my future. But the truth is, I spent a lot of time atheist, and it was psychedelics and the sacrament. You mentioned sacrament. Absolutely. This is a true sacrament. A sacred consumption of a substance is a sacrament. And to do so in reverence and sacredness. And so it was that led me back to God and rereading my old journals and saying, well, what is it that I really believe when I let go of all the constructs I think I was taught, or I was taught, but think I believe in. So that's what happened. And I established Singularism. It's a long story. I skipped 20 years of details there, but I founded Singularism and opened the doors. And I wrote the government. I actually wrote the police chief, the mayor, the city council, And I just said, hey, I know there could be some misunderstandings about what we do, but if you'd like to come on a tour, if you'd like to talk to me in advance, the law says that you need to enforce by the least restrictive means, and let's establish that together. I wrote them letters in advance and then waited, and they did nothing. And I was even a little disappointed. I was like, not disappointed really, but just I thought they'd have some response.
Yeah.
And then a year and a half later, got raided, like you mentioned. So
unbelievable. So you started your church. You went out of your way to reach out to the government and say, hey, just giving you all a heads up. Love to talk to you. They never said a word until the police show up.
That's right. Actually, what they did, they wrote my lawyer after we invited them to come for tours, and I wrote all those letters to them. And all they wrote was, hey, this is not ripe for any sort of investigation or prosecution. And they said, we'll let you know if there ever comes a day we want to take you up on a tour. and then instead they spent a year undercover and trying to get me, and they shut my bank accounts down clandestinely. And I didn't know. I was like, why are my bank accounts getting shut down? And KeyBank wouldn't tell me why, and then they're just shut down. There was a lot of little behind the scenes things that they were doing. But when they couldn't get me closed, they sent in I don't know what the new term for SWAT team is, but it was their special crime unit. They're big guys. You know what I mean? So,
wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, treating you literally like a hardened criminal or something like that, like a threat to society when you're trying to put the ladder down to help people heal and reconnect with God. That's just it. So let's dig into it, man, because when I was reading, I'd rather get my teeth drilled than read like a 35-page whatever it was from the judge. But I got to tell you, Bridger, when I was reading that from this judge, I was like hymning the battle hymn of the Republic. She took a flamethrower to the government. Like, how dare you arrest this man, take his sacrament and his scripture, like let him out, give him his stuff back, and he can sue you for violating your constitutional rights. I mean, I've never read a ruling that was as damning against the government, but I know you and I talked briefly, but let the viewers know, like, after reading a ruling like that, I'm like, man, case closed. First of all, I hope you sue the hell out of those people, but you should be good to go. It turns out the government might not be acting like that.
Acting like what? That they are
like you're good to go and everything's fine. Like, we'll leave you alone.
No,
I mean, you're still like in a dogfight.
The truth is, it's funny. People get more entrenched in their position rather than just admit. So I do think we're in like a Jean Valjean Javert situation where he's like digging harder. And I'm like, you guys, I just want to end this. I shouldn't say all the details, but they're so juicy. I can say this, I think. I offered a $0 settlement early in after the judge issued a temporary restraining order, and after she ordered them to return my mushrooms and that we're substantially likely to win. I came back and just was like, hey, I'll just eat my legal expenses, which were already at about 60 grand. And let's just part ways here. And they doubled down. The next week, they put more lawyers on the case. They charged me with criminal charges, which they hadn't done yet as a retaliation. The judge later ruled it to be a retaliation.
Yeah.
Then they said, we're going to try to put you away for, up to 15 years.
Jesus.
And then they asked for more money from the state to prosecute me. And then on December 23rd of 2024, they asked that in the next 2 weeks, we want to interrogate and deposition every single one of the members. And they got 4 more lawyers to do so. And and this is on December 23rd.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
So yeah, Merry Christmas. And the judge ended up calling this an offensively broad discovery process. It constituted harassment, and it constituted harassment. And their reply was, if they're scared to talk about their religious experience, it just says that they're not sincere.
Yeah.
And our reply was, are you kidding? It actually makes us more like other religions that were scared of what they were commanded or starting to do or felt passionate about doing.
Correct.
And got persecuted for it. I couldn't believe their response. We thought we won when we got the TRO, and they made it rain with filings. So
I mean, folks, if this doesn't, one of my podcasts, Bridger, after reading about this is Benjamin, get my musket type of thing. I mean, this is absolute. And this is infuriating to me. And that's why I'm so proud to support you and to be behind you 100%, man. Whatever you need from me, man, I'll show up in court type of thing, because this is obscene. So folks, let's step through this real quick. The First Amendment doesn't have an asterisk. It doesn't have the state of Utah listed in it. It doesn't have the DEA listed in it, right? So if the government feels that they have to poke around somebody's religion, the exact wording is use the least restrictive means possible, right? That's and all the research I've done, bro, is that's a massive hurdle to get over. Is, first of all, you have to show a compelling interest. Like, what is the government's interest? What are you doing? Are you doing human sacrifices? Well, no. Are you hurting people? No. The compelling interest wall is almost insurmountable, but somehow they climbed over your, compelling interest wall. And then the next hurdle they're supposed to be able to try and jump over is least restrictive means. The least restrictive means is not arresting and seizing your sacrament. So
that's right.
It's absolute insanity to me that these insurmountable walls, they've somehow, well, I think they've gone under them in your case, and you're still over here. I was preparing for this, and I read the article that Jeffrey Burrow from Harvard, up at Harvard, wrote about this, and I spoke up at Harvard in November, and I think one of your attorneys were there, or somebody who knew about the case. So this was all great because it was swirling around, and man, I was on fire up there on my soapbox talking about you and how you were getting screwed. Where are you now? What do you need? How can people help? What are you okay, or is it getting worse? I mean, your church you're still operating, right? But
yeah.
Where are you?
Well, we are at both an exciting place, and we are at an exciting crossroad. And we, for the first time since the raid, it's taken us 15 months to get over these humps and to get the rulings we need to really feel safe coming forward. Mm-hmm. Ruling after ruling has come down in our favor, and they didn't want to return the mushrooms, but they were forced to. Mm-hmm. We are in the strongest position legally that we could possibly be in. The judge has even ruled that we are substantially likely to win, but they have tried to bury us in filings, and and new charges and trumped up charges, which right now, even the ACLU is writing an amicus brief on our behalf to help. And Harvard, you mentioned, has been amazing. I also want to say, it has been thanks to the support of my lawyer, Tanner Bean, the support of my girlfriend. I could say my girlfriend first or him second, but they have been essential in that.
We'll edit that out. We'll reverse it.
Right. And a few others. And I should give a shout out to my friend Jeremy that told me about you and your podcast, and who heard you talking about it on your podcast and sent me clips of it. Yeah. He'll be tickled. So I want to give a shout out to many other people. But the truth is, how to help us. We have a donate place, and we do need donations. And we also are certifying a course. And I'll tell you something about. We have a certification course. And I'll tell you something about this course. It is the only one in the nation with a psilocybin practicum where it's done right. And it's the only one that allows you to federally practice psilocybin therapy or psilocybin as ceremony. And when I say therapy, I say it carefully. I have been uniquely qualified to operate under an exemption. Because I was a therapist in the past. That's right. And I operate under an exemption now, and I can practice therapy without a license under certain exemptions. And so while I did 17 years of therapy before, we continue to do therapy. People have challenged whether therapy is religious. And I said, well, Jesus was influenced by the professions of his time when he started a religion.
Amen.
Buddha was, carpentry and fishing, are all metaphors in the religion. Same thing with the Masons.
Yes.
Masonry as a profession was part of their religion, quite literally. Even Salvation Army and even your religion, no fallen heroes. You can't say that's not influenced by your military background and the upbringing and the loss of your comrades and brothers, right?
Correct.
So I said, well, why can't I have a religion based on sound psychological good therapy? And to call it therapy, and the state of Utah DOPL, the Department of Professional Licensing, agreed with me, and so did the judge. And
it's and I think Jeffrey did a great job in that Harvard blog. The government shot itself in the foot a couple times. Like, they accused you of not being a guru, or like not being a pope or something, like, a
prophet.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute, this guy's, are you a prophet or not? And if you're not, how can you be religious? It's like, wait a minute, man. I believe, Bridger, my practice is I'm going to get out of the way. You don't need a pope, a priest, an altar to stand between you and God. I can help. I facilitate that communion. But at the end of the day, man, because I think they tried to do a gotcha question, like, do you know the meaning of life? Or they played all these little games with you. And I'm like, you actually proved. I'm so glad that federal judge saw through all this stuff. Like, my God, what are you doing? So talk us through some of the gotchas and how you maneuvered around them. It's fascinating to read, folks. First of all, before I forget, go to singularism.org and throw a couple shekels over the fence to these folks, because you all know when you're going up against the government, man, they got unlimited time and budget. So throw some shekels. But I think they have a link to the ruling on there. But how do you maneuver around some of the, we got you, and you just made them look foolish?
I'm going to answer that question. And I also want to say, I'm always timid to ask for money. And it doesn't feel.
I know, that's why I did it for you. I'm the same way.
So thank you. Yes, I want to say thanks. We do have a donate link on our page, and we can use it. We have raised a few thousand, but if you are looking for a place to help legalize psilocybin, and this is it. This is the lawsuit. My lawyers and many others, I imagine the Petrie Institute at Harvard Law would probably agree that this is the lawsuit and the time. Ayahuasca was helped with another lawsuit, and so was peyote with another. This is the first time anyone has ever gotten a federal ruling or any ruling in favor of an organizational distribution of mushrooms. So I do think you're putting your money in a good direction with us. To answer your other question, though, this is the fun one. Was the Myers criteria the Myers criteria is the definition of religion by the government. And
folks, real quick, he's talking about 1996 Supreme Court, right? It went all the way up. It was Myers versus the United States. The Supreme Court, or whoever, came up with five bullet points of this counts as a religion. So go ahead and dig into that.
Well, and I don't need to go over all of them, but the main two that they really drove into home for me. I guess I'll go into a couple. They didn't know that we had holidays that we celebrate, that we celebrate the solstices and the equinoxes, and then we celebrate other holidays too, as is culturally appropriate. They said we have no religious garb. And I said, actually, our clinicians, we all wear white shirts and gold buttons. I didn't wear that today, but we have white shirts and gold buttons. And it's our uniform. And I'm not saying God commanded me to tell everybody to wear that. I'm not going to take it that. But what I'm going to say is we have our uniform, and that is a religious garb for us. And then they said, you have no diet. And I said, actually, what we do is when people are on psilocybin, just like a good therapy session, a therapist shouldn't say, here's my diet. You should be vegan, or you should be Atkins, or you should be whatever. And we say, decide between you and your higher self what your diet should be. And so for me, I abstain from certain things, and I encourage others to figure out what they should, and for religious reasons. And I said this to the judge, and she liked all of these answers. But the fun, unique moment, I should also say, they were way harder on Brandy, my partner in this, and my partner in all things, than they were on me. They drove her to tears. But I'll circle back to that if we get there. But with me, they sat down, they looked right at me, and they go, They tried to make me look like a fool. And they had taken all my journals. They had taken notes that people had taken on me. And they were cross-examining me against my own history and notes. And they tried to make me look like a fool for sure. And they said, well, are you a prophet? And I said, because you see, the Myers criteria says, well, a religion, to be a religion, has a prophet, it has holidays, it has attunements, what they call the attunements of religion. And I said, I am no more or less of a prophet than everybody else who communes with God. Mm-hmm. And so their lawyer was like, you hear that, Your Honor? Did you hear that? He's no more or less a prophet. He's denying that and I was like, well, you're incentivizing me to lie, like right now. Like if I would just say, yeah, I'm a prophet and I know better than everyone else, like that would have been ridiculous and it got silly. But the truth was I didn't want to claim. And then they asked me, well, okay, do you know, because one of the questions in the Myers criteria is a religion claims to know the answers to life's biggest questions. And they said, well, do you know the answers to life's biggest questions? And I go, no. And then I said, and anyone who says they do is the fraud.
That's the Chambro. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, no, I'm not going to pretend that I know better. Now, I am satisfied with my answers, and I think I have a few things figured out. But to sit there and say that I know better than all the philosophers and all the other religions, I'm not gonna pretend that. I'm gonna say no. And we were truly humble in our answers and honest. And I think the judge saw our lawyer going, oh boy, that might not fit. And the judge saw their lawyer going, do you see this? This isn't. But the judge saw what the main criteria is, and that is we were sincere. Mm-hmm. We were answering the questions as sincerely and humbly as we could. And she looked at this, and what she said in this report, and this was key. This is the game changer in our lawsuit, and that is, she said, I consider their humility, their existential humility, to be a feature of this religion, not a detraction. And in fact, I think that this criteria, she says, well, she said, first of all, I do think they meet the criteria. They have a prophet. It's everyone in his religion. Amen. And their answer about universal questions is that they don't claim to know them all, and their answer is sufficient for the court. But then she said, I also have the power to expand the definition of religion. And in movies where like it comes down to this point where you're like, oh, we lost. And then suddenly you're like, wait, what is happening right now? Are we? And we were going through this. We were looking at each other, and she goes, I have the authority in this ruling to expand the definition of religion. And we're going to expand this to include now that religions may also be existentially humble, and Singularism seems to be an example of this.
Wow.
And that was the most humbling thing to me I have ever had happen. And it is true. I have an everlasting quest for humility, and I have an everlasting quest for just actually staying out of the spotlight and just not. Amen. I want to make a big difference, but I have felt a lot like Job, where Job is told to go talk to Nineveh, and Job is like, no, Nineveh, they aren't going to take me seriously. And then it just has to go. I even said that in the cross-examination. There's nothing convenient about this lawsuit and these charges for me. There's nothing. I wasn't out to do this exactly. I just wanted to practice what I feel the realms and the universe and the multiverse asked me to do.
Amen.
And that's all I was doing.
It's interesting too. Another gotcha they tried to get you on was like money. You're like, what was it, like 20, 30, 40 grandish or something over the period. I'm like, it's a pittance. It like probably doesn't even cover the electric bills or something like that. We're not in this for money. So they tried to get you on like a money thing too, which is interesting to me. I'm not going to disparage any other faiths or beliefs, but Scientology, man, you got to pay like a couple $100,000 to get, make admiral or something like that. And there's some other kind of faiths or beliefs out there that count as religions where it might be about the money. So when I read that in there, I'm like, the guy's barely, rubbing two pennies together here, and you're going to try and get him on that too. It's insane. We're doing this out of, I call it the world's greatest Ponzi scheme. You heal and you want to go tell everybody. We help these people on these retreats. They go home and they put the ladder down and want to help people heal. And to your point, as this sacrament, healing's free. God put these compounds on this planet for us to heal.
That's
Whether
right.
it's iboga, it's mescaline, peyote, or psilocybin. God put these compounds on this planet, these sacraments, as you and I agree, for free. But a little bit of overhead to like keep the lights on and stuff like that ain't a business. So I loved when the judge is like, "Are you joking? Like this ain't a money making operation." And it's so clear too. Again, we'll leave names out of it, but some folks are like, "Oh, I'm going to start a church, wink, wink, and start selling psilocybin in the mail." That's not what this is. This is a sincere center. You have a temple ceremony. You record you write down the scriptures. I mean, so you shot bullet holes in everything they shot at you, and you're still standing. I mean, just hats off to you and Brandy. But let's get back to Brandy. What did they bring her to tears? I mean, that's unsat.
They asked her a lot of questions. Like they were trying to make us look insincere, reckless, and they were asking her, okay, well, would you say somebody wants to take a hit of their crack pipe? And they're called to do that. Well, they first of all, they revealed their ignorance about what we're doing at all. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, no, we wouldn't. Brandy was confused because she was like, well, if they feel called to hit their crack pipe, I mean, not with us, not while they're with us. Yeah. We're not here to judge because we don't judge. We're not. So if I learned somebody needed help quitting crack, I wouldn't deny them treatment at our center, but I wouldn't let them smoke crack at our center. And so we were confused by their questions because we're so open-minded and actually so transparent. We were like, that's a good question. So they're like, well, would you let a KKK member be one of the, participate? And Brandy was like, I think I'd have to ask Bridger, but she didn't know she was on the stand. And she goes, yeah, but not like we're KKK, but like we're helping people that are sick. Correct. We're helping people that are struggling. And so long as they're working on their addiction in the crack case, or so long they are working on their KKK in the KKK. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, put me in the ring, put me in, tag me in. Because
tag out.
I wanted to be like, this is what they asked. This is what the Pharisees were asking Jesus. Like, don't make this seem like court. The Pharisees were like, what, you hang out with the tax collectors and look at you with the sinners and the harlots.
Yep.
Yes. And the truth of it is Jesus came and he goes, I'm not here if you guys don't need help, I'm not here for you. The whole need no physician, right? Yeah. And while I'm kind of going into Christianity a little bit today, I affiliate no more with any religion than I just do your sheer connection with God. I just think it's a good example with any of these persecuted and prosecuted religions. I have learned some insights that, man, alive, they must have had the same insights when people of their day were oppressing them as well, asking them the same questions in court.
Exactly.
And I want to say, so they said something to the effect of, you like to sound like Jesus. And I was like, well, then don't ask me the same question that the Pharisees were asking him. Gosh.
That's so fun. You sound like Jesus. Well, maybe the guy was right and he was on to something. Forgive me for quoting him.
Right.
Or channeling
somebody here sounds like Jesus. Like, come on.
I'm glad somebody in this courtroom actually knows who that is. That's so funny, man. Right. I mean, after my experience, like I told you, recovering Catholic, altar boy, all that stuff, I lost my faith, obviously, for a while there. But after my retreat and oneness with that Christ consciousness, that oneness, just complete perfection, that's when I got home and I started reading voraciously, like the Gospel of Thomas, learning about Gnosticism, reading The Immortality Key by Brian Morescu and the history. Folks, in case you don't know, you use psychedelics to commune with what you fill in the blank, we're using the word God here, predates Christianity. Look at Eleusis, the mysteries, the Eleusinian mysteries in Greece. As a matter of fact, women were the priestess, right? They'd mix the stuff and say, hey, take this and go over there and you can commune and get some answers. They were just facilitators, stewards of it, right? And then here comes Christianity. Okay, now it's all dudes. Women, you're second-class citizens. Oh, and by the way, if you keep mixing that type of stuff, you're a witch. And now you're committing witchcraft and we're going to burn you. And dogma. And it was amazing to me. They did try and hit you with the rigid dogma approach. Like, hey man, that's actually one of the things we're against. I was a Catholic and we did Catholic aerobics every Sunday, kneel, stand, this and that and everything like that. But I got home, reading the Gospel of Thomas and really changing my views on stuff. I got my crucifix right here, man. I call myself a recovering Catholic, but the more, it's so interesting that, religious folks, after they sit with these sacraments, it really shines a light on things. Like, for example, my personal opinion, when Jesus said, I and the Father are one, he wasn't claiming some spiritual chain of command, because before this experience, I thought there was a spiritual chain of command. God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, angels, saints, Pope, Archbishop, cardinals, the Monsignor, the priest, and then me as the altar boy. I believed in a chain of command. And then Bridger, I'm telling you, man, on the ibogaine and then the 5-MeO-DMT, it was like the Millennium Falcon. I went from zero to pure love, white, and oneness with God. There was no separation. And these sacraments can give our ego a break, right? What's ego stand for? Edge God out. So if these sacraments can kind of lower that veil and show you who you truly are before we enter ceremony, often I remind, because, we got a lot of veterans who show up or first responders, and they might feel that they're broken. They might think they look broken. I'm like, you are not broken, man. God, and I got this. He said, Matthew, I don't make imperfect things. I can help you with, because Bridger, when the brightest, whitest, most beautiful thing I've ever seen appeared, I couldn't look at. I was ashamed. The alcohol, the drugs, the shame, the regret, the trauma. I was terrified. I can't even look at you, man. And I'll never forget. He said, Matthew, I don't make imperfect things. And with, not that God had hands, but just with a wave of whatever, it was gone. And he said, Matthew, get up. Let me show you what you can do. And man, that changed my life. It saved my life. And I said, this is how we're going to help heal this planet, man. So it's interesting because I'm like, let me walk beside you, not stand on top of you or like an apostle. I can tell you about my experiences. I can facilitate, but man, you are the sacrament. You have the answers inside you. I guarantee you, when God, I knew you before you were in the womb, man. All of us have that perfect soul inside of us. This we can work on. But man, it hit me that, just like you, the humility of it. I'm like, I'm pretty damn sure I'm robbing a village somewhere of an idiot. There's no way in hell I would have ever thought I'd be talking to a podcast with a fellow entheogenic church guy and even doing any of this work. But that's the power in this, man. There's no way in hell. And I remember asking God, when the day before I saw your article and headline, I'm like, God, man, I'm an idiot. And it was also just that powerful feeling of it is you. Let's go. I got a mission for you,
So you said so, but I like this exchange. I like you take 2 or 3 minutes and then I'll do the same because I think we're both talkers.
Yes, sir.
And this is the right pace. But first of all, I don't want to just gloss over your awakening story. That was beautiful. And that's the shiz right there. That's what this has the power to do. And you said that it helps you understand who you truly are. Amen. And so how does it do this? Well, it goes in your mind, and for a minute, I think it stirs up so many connections and so many thoughts. Often people are just looking down at the crowd and they go, there are so many things going on. And I'm going, there's nothing.
Exactly.
You are looking at like the pillow on the couch in front of you. And they're like, there's so many decisions to make. And I'm like, right, they're urgent. They can go left and right or up and down in a three-dimensional world, like mentally. But what it also does is it for a moment can remove these fears. I should say not always, but can. And then it seems to have the ability to, for a moment, help us remove the constructs that every single thing you've been taught, and we are hypersocial creatures that learn from one another. Everything we've been taught can, for a few minutes, be put aside so that you can examine yourself as just consciousness, a conscious being, a conscious thought, without burden, without fear, without emotion, and even without cognitions, to just experience a sheer being. I couldn't have a more raw conscious experience if I had been a bacteria for a few minutes, or if I had been a fox or a mammal or anything else on Earth. It is just raw consciousness, and that teaches you who you are because you can see outside of it for a few minutes. And there's a reason people report an increased amount of religiosity in this. Now, another question they asked us, since you mentioned, they asked us, well, can an atheist be singularism then? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I don't see this as so much a member thing. I know a lot of other entheogenic churches are like, join us and you're protected. Yes. I hadn't had all of that figured out at the time. It was, I've seen it more as I'm training practitioners that are clergy. So it's not like in Star Wars, not everybody's in the Jedi universe. Not everybody believes in the Force. I don't know if you believe in the Force or not. Nobody knows. But they have a Jedi order and they believe in the Force, and they can administer or do their Jedi exercises and operations. And I see this a little bit like that. I am not asking people to be a member or to join or to call themselves singulars. No, that's other religions. They do that. I am just training good practitioners and clergy, and then hoping that we go out in the world and can spread the word. So yes, I said an atheist, an agnostic, a Catholic, a Mormon, an Islamic person, Jewish person, anybody can participate without making lifelong commitments. And we also consider ourselves faith affirming. So if you come a Catholic, you can leave a Catholic. We're not going to try to dissuade you from everything. If you come Jewish or Islamic, we're going to say, okay, well, what if you come believing in tarot cards and astrology? We're going to just go deep inside of what you believe. Yeah. And if you come wanting to question the religion of your upbringing, we'll help you do that too. It is truly client driven, or what we call Voyager driven, because we have Voyagers. Yeah.
I love it. We, I went down to Mexico with Marcus Luttrell, Navy SEAL, lone survivor. And, he and his wife, Melanie, they make the Pope look Jewish. You don't get any more Catholic than the Luttrells, right? They bring flowers from their ranch to church a couple of days a week and stuff like that. So when Marcus was going to go, she was a little worried. She's like, demons, or it's against the Catholic Church, whatever. She was very concerned. And then obviously Marcus got home, different human being. Like, she's like, oh my goodness, wow. Eventually the sacrament called to her. And she got me, right? Because I was like, I gave her some time and, space to integrate. And I'm like, how'd it go? And she said, Whiz, I lost my faith. And I'm like, in that half a second, my heart dropped. She's like, I don't need it anymore. I had experience. And I'm like, yes. Right. So experience trumps faith. I tell people, I stole that from her. I'm like, I lost my faith. And people are like, haha. I'm like, I don't need it. I had direct experience. After my sister Monica, 19 years old, killed by a drunk driver, changed the arc of my life. I was always wondering, Bridger, if she was bored in heaven. What do I mean? Like, is she up there with a watch going, kind of been a while, where's everybody? And I'm telling you, bro. So at one point, in my sacramental journey, there was my sister Monica, and she was angelic. She was perfect. And then my father, who had died years after her, but he died. My mom and my brother and my sisters are convinced he died he died the day Monica died. But he was right there with her. And he was young. And I can't remember the last time I had seen my father smile. And they were perfect. And it was a peace I hadn't felt in decades. And then they started to, pixelate's a bad word, but they started to leave, and it was a horror. And I screamed out, "Don't leave me, please don't leave me again." And they came back and they smiled. And then they started to kind of leave again, and I followed them. And they went into my daughter. They went into the trees. They went into me. They never left. Heaven to me is a higher state of consciousness. They're right here, man. They're on this podcast with us. They never left me. And I'm convinced that and there was no time, right? When I was having this experience, there was no, "Hey, this has been going on for a while," or "How long is this going to last?" It was this perfect eternal state of bliss, and it answered my question. So it's interesting. Why do I bring this up? Because people debate sometimes, like, well, is Buddhism a religion or is it a practice? I knew a Catholic priest. He's like, "I'm a Buddhist. It makes me a better Catholic." So it's almost like, I'm like you. All faiths welcome, man. I'm not. It's a mountain. There's one thing on the top of the mountain, folks. There's a lot of different roads. You can take your Islamic road, your Christian road, your whatever Buddhism road. They all kind of get to the same destination, man. We can all call the roads different, but man, we're all the same cosmic stardust. Let there be light, and all those roads lead up.
Oh my God! Everything you just said. Yes, heaven. The secret of heaven is that we're already living it.
Amen.
We're there. This is it. And if it's hell for you at that time, that day, that's an opportunity to make it heaven again. And so this world can be hell. This world can be heaven. And to think that you say, okay, my fallen heroes are around me now, they're listening to us now. Mm-hmm. Yes, they are in our speech. They're in the vibrations of our voice. They are in the waves that are allowing us to communicate 3,000 miles apart right now. Amen. And wow. So I am with you, having spent 12 years completely agnostic after being raised as a Latter-day Saint. And so I have come full circle in where you started this with, which was like a Catholic person, an Islamic person, a mainstream Christian person, an evangelical Christian or Jewish, any of these religions, mm-hmm. all, when they close their eyes to speak with God, we are speaking with the same thing. Amen. And we are no difference. It's like when Shakespeare wrote, does the Jewish person's blood, is it not red? Like correct. We close our eyes and pray. And do you want to know the reason for all these different institutions? They exist so that they can keep teaching, and they collect money so that they can keep growing. Money. And that becomes it. And then you have to say, well, then we're the only one, or we're the main one, or we're the truest one, or we're the, and I want to say, I want to break free of that construct. This is something I told Jeffrey Bro that you mentioned earlier, Harvard's divinity school author that wrote about this. But I want to say, I think in a multi-quantum universe way, like kind of Rick and Morty, let's call it, I think all of the religions are literally true, even in their contradictions. And so if you ask, is singularism consistent with any of these religions? Yes, I believe that perhaps just the same way we make heaven or hell around us as we live, I think we can make these religions true or false according to our faith in them. And so I consider singularism to be a multiversal religion that truly believes in the multiverse, and that unlike all the religions that say everyone else is false, I want to say every other one is true, even in their direct contradiction.
That's exactly right. I love the way you said that. You nailed it. Man, I don't think before I sat with the Sacrament I knew who Ram Dass was, but Ram Dass, know all about it now. But he said the freer I get, the higher I go. The higher I go, the more I see. The more I see, the less I know. The less I know, the more I'm free. That's what's funny.
The less I know, the more I'm free. Yes.
It's because when I read them trying to got you with the, do you know everything type of thing, I'm like, the more sacramental work, the more I help people, I recognize I know absolutely nothing. I used to be this badass Navy fighter pilot type A. I can do anything. I know everything. Man, the more of this work I do, it's literally so humbling. It's almost overpowering how little I feel, but at the same time feel just incredibly one, right? It's this duality, so to speak,
What you say, this speaks to a core belief that we have in Singularism, and that is that there's two missions. And one is to be open enough and eager enough to learn everything you can, to gain that experience, to get experience, to learn more, to grow bigger. And the bigger you grow, the harder you can do the second part, and that is to let go of everything you think you know. Because the minute you stop and you say, I know that thing already, you then you cannot learn more about that subject. It's have, the Taoist metaphor of having a full cup. You can't put more tea in a full cup. So what you have to do is drink from your cup, and then you can put more tea in it. You have to consume and act. And so there's two arts to this. One is learning more, building, gaining experience, and then holding it loosely enough that you can let go incessantly. And that's the key to, even in martial arts, like that's true. Bruce Lee would be like, and Muhammad Ali would say, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And Bruce Lee was all about circles and squares and the mathematics of it. And so, agreed. It's about knowing what you know and letting go of everything you know.
That's exactly right. And it can be terrifying for people, right? And I'm sure you brief your folks and before ceremony, and we do the same thing, trust. And it's funny because before I sat with the sacrament for the first time, the mission within had like a manual. I'm a military guy, fighter pilot. I got to read the manual. And it, every other page, I'd read a page and I'm like, all right, I kind of feel comfortable. And then there'd be a paragraph like, warning, nothing can prepare you for what's about to happen. I'm like, oh shit, that sounds scary. I'd read another page and I'm like, all right, I feel a little bit better. And then another warning, same warning, like copied and pasted. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? And then throughout that manual, they'd use the word surrender. And I'm like, man, I'm a fucking fighter pilot. I don't surrender. I'm a badass. And after the experience, I'm like, I get it. Maybe change the word to like allow or accept. They're like, oh yeah, good idea. We're going to do that because surrender kind of sound. But to your point, it's like, let go a little bit, man. I can't wait for you and Brandy to meet Susie because she went like 3 months after I came back, and her psilocybin and 5-MeO DMT experience, she's like, it's fine. I got this overwhelming peace that it's fine. Even when it's not, it's fine. And even when it's great, it's fine. Because she, as a mom of 3 kids, the house could be on fire and she's like, it's fine. It's our catchphrase in our house with our kids. Yeah. We all laughed at mom. That's her go-to is like, it's fine. No matter how bad anything is in that moment, she's like, it's fine. And then after she sat with the sacrament, she's like, guess what? It's fine. And like, I actually believe that. It's so cool. That's her catchphrase,
Last time on my most powerful, I will say it was the most powerful DMT experience I have ever had. And I went in with the intention to have the strength to do the things I need to do. And I thought that was a good intention. I thought it out for time and weeks. I said, I haven't been the strong man. I've been hurt. I'm wounded right now. I'm down. I sound all confident, but the truth is I have suffered from this. And I was down. And then as soon as the medicine kicked in, the first thing it told me was, what are you talking about? You don't need to do anything. Like, you can do it. You can, but you don't. You have hyped this up in your head, Bridger, to where you think you need to do something. No, you are you're conscious. What do you think you can do wrong right now?
Wow.
You've hyped this up that you need to be strong and do something strong. Just let go. And then I surrendered and I just said, yeah, you're right. I don't need to do anything. I feel there are actions and I'd like to keep living and the sun's going to come up the next morning. But like, you don't need to do anything, Bridger.
Yeah.
That was my message.
Yeah.
And,
after I got back foundation, about a year later, we went down to Costa Rica. We took a group and I felt like I needed to knock the rust off, especially because I thought I was failing, man. I'm trying to help these veterans and first responders and family members. They're not healing, and I'll never forget, there's God again. Well, God didn't go anywhere, but God, he's like, what are you doing, Matthew? You're good. I'm like, I'm failing. I'm trying to help these people heal and I'm failing you, God. And I'll never forget this. And he said, Matthew, you can't heal anybody. That's my job, son. Keep doing what you're doing. Carry them, drag them, push them to the door, son. But they have to want to walk through. And then I got them. And man, Bridger, that was 100-pound knapsack that I dropped. I'm like, and sitting here now saying it, it's like, duh, you didn't. No, not duh. I was in it. I needed God to go. And it was so beautiful. He's always loving and kind. He was like, Matthew, you can't, I love you, son, but I got to do some things too, man. I got them if they want to heal. So that's part of the humility thing too. It's like, man, to your point, like if somebody says I got all the answers, that's a shambro and run, man. You and I can kind of facilitate and stuff like that. But the big guy's there for a reason. Ask and
right.
it shall be opened. Ask and you shall receive. You got to say, I want to heal, God, and then guess what? Good things will happen.
That's right. That is amen to all of this. You have to ask. And one of the key things to know also is, who is it? I want to say, who is it that you're following? When Jesus or Buddha or any of the other religious founders, well, I'll use the example of Jesus for a moment. He said, my sheep hear my name. Or my sheep hear their voice. So, imagine being in the Mediterranean and watching herds of sheep just mingle all day. And then two shepherds walk in opposite directions and they each just call their sheep. And every sheep knows where to go according to the shepherd. And I think it is very much like that religiously. I think that if you feel a call to Buddhism, if you feel a call to Catholicism, that is your shepherd. That is your sheep. Buddha could be it. Islam could be it. I know Islam, it's controversial here in America at times, but the truth is it's a great religion for those that practice the best parts of it. And Christianity, Judaism, all of the major ones have their great points. And we do ourselves a disservice that Nietzsche talked about. I'm a big fan of philosophy and psychology. And I've been mentioning all these religion people today because I am admittedly religious, but I look at Nietzsche, and Nietzsche said God is dead, and everybody took offense with that. But what he said was God is dead, and we have killed him, and we have done so. And I'm paraphrasing, but we have done so at our own peril, because yes, maybe we have figured out that God, in the way we were taught, is not real. I am the first to say that is I would say maybe not real. Like, are parallel lines real? And no, they're not. They don't exist in the universe. There's no two lines ever extending. There's no example of forever two lines equal distance apart that never end. They're not real. And so if parallel lines aren't real, but we still measure all of trigonometry and all of geometry by parallel lines, and we can calculate the mysteries of the universe with that, that's what God is to me. I say God is ephemeral, and it is not the meaning of God to say he, she, it, I don't know. Exactly. God exists. But God exists perhaps the way parallel lines do, that it is a template of how we want to be and what we want to be and how much we want to love. So that is how I see things. I don't care what religion or not religion you are.
Correct.
I am here to help people commune and you said earlier something about the gurus when they meet. And I think, well, what if Jesus and John the Baptist, when they met, what if they had been all like, "What's up, bro?" and a little bit ego about it? What if instead of saying, "Hey, I'm here to do your baptism ceremony," and he's like, "Are you kidding? I can't even unstrap your sandals. I'm not worthy." What if instead they had been like, "Dude, you stick to that area. I'm going to take Galilee, and we're gonna be territorial about this, and I don't want you poaching members from my region of Israel." Like that would have been silly. And I see all these gurus, and I see these churches, and I see these organizations, even between pharmaceuticals and healers, like underground. I want to be like, you guys, you're healing. Heal the right people, do it safely, and help one another and make this world a better place. Yeah. That's
job one.
Of all of us.
That's exactly
job one.
Yeah. I mean, Bridger, I've seen meat-eating, knuckle-dragging killers on the other side of the sacrament be like, man, I never want to do that again. I think these sacraments can turn warriors into peacemakers. I think this world can be a much better place, man, if we start healing some of these folks. I'm not joking. I told people, after I got home, I'm like, if I could kidnap Vladimir Putin and Zelensky and throw them on a retreat, the war would end in 24 hours. And people always give it a little chuckle. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, because that is actually what would happen. Rick Doblin, from MABs and MDMA and stuff like that, he did a retreat with like IDF veterans and former Hamas terrorists. I mean, these guys wanted to literally cut each other's heads off. They did a retreat. They're best friends. And he tried to bring them to psychedelic science in Denver last summer, and the Trump administration wouldn't give the former Hamas terrorists like visas, kind of proving the point that they don't know what you're doing, because those guys healed. They're like, they want to be on stage with these IDF guys that they wanted to kill because they healed together. I mean, it's just, it's so powerful.
I didn't know that story.
Oh,
That's
story. Look, he was on Rogan like in the summer or the fall telling that story, Rick Doblin. So check out that Joe Rogan episode with him, because he's like, I healed these two groups of guys that wanted to, cut each other's heads off, and now they didn't.
That's a good story.
It is. It's incredibly powerful. My brother, man, this is just absolutely fantastic. I want to say you are divinely guided. I tell people, when you lead with your heart and your truth, you can never fail. So, folks, just a quick reminder: go to singularism.org. There's a donate button. Throw some shekels over the fence, because you heard it from the man himself. They need to do a retreat with you, man, these government officials, because you're right. Once they dig in their heel, nobody likes admitting they're wrong. And if anything, they're going to dig in their heels even more. So you got, if I could do anything, I don't know what I could do other than help you with how I'm doing, man. If I need to jump on a plane and appear in court as a friend of the court or whatever, you got veterans, you got first responders, you got family members from Sacred Warrior Fellowship that will engage however we can, man, because I was about to say you don't deserve this, but guess what? God picked you and Singularism for a reason. That might not feel good all the time, but I'm telling you, man, you are divinely guided and blessed, and I'm proud to know you. And however we can support you, we're here for you.
Thank you so much. And I just thanks a ton. I can't thank you most. When you said a minute ago, you mentioned the veterans and the servicemen. I would like to have served in the military to protect the Constitution, to protect America, but I didn't know. And I see this as my way of showing my kids that I believe in the Constitution. Amen. This was the way I was made to do it. I could have served in the military. I would like to have, but I served an LDS mission at the same age that I might have signed up. And the truth is, I always wanted to. And now I see this as the way that I'm meant to do so. And I want to thank all the veterans and the military and your lost fallen heroes out there, for real. Thank you for supporting the Constitution and making this day possible, where we can legalize this amazing medicine for the world.
Amen.
So
Everything happens for a reason, my brother. So the fact that you're blazing this path, and then now you got veterans and first responders giving you close air support. We are here. You are serving your country. There is no more noble purpose or calling than sticking up for the most bedrock foundational principle of this country. So you can wrap yourself in the flag all day, my brother, because you are blazing a path. I hope it doesn't have to go any further. I don't want to see you on the courts, the steps of the Supreme Court, but if that happens, it'll be 9-0, or it should be 9-0. I mean, this is a no-brainer, and I pray to God, and I have done this, that those officials in Utah get the message, get something, and come to their senses, because you don't deserve this, but you got tasked, and I'm going to fly formation off you.
Thank you. And I even want to thank the public service people that have done this. I want to say we wish nothing but good to the people and thank them for making my community better. Like, even the law enforcement, the SWAT team, the prosecutor, they're doing what they know to do too. And when two people find themselves at exchanging fire from other sides of an issue, I want to say I really hope we get the opportunity to listen and hear and learn from one another. And I hope the best for them too. Thank you so much. Amen. Yes, come visit singularism.org and let's do more good for the world.
I appreciate it, my brother. Folks, Bridger Lee Jensen from Singularism, go to his website, like he said, .org. Go Google his name and read the court case, man. It's worth a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever it is to read it. And man, it's a tough read, because if you believe, obviously, like he and I do, it's all bullshit. But the judge takes a flamethrower to the government, and that's what makes this system great. And our checks and balances, the fact that this lady in a robe said, "Are you kidding me?" Kind of leave this man and what he's doing alone is fantastic. So check out the ruling. Check out his website.
On the website or on the donation link for your people, I will put a little link. If you want me to email you a copy of that ruling, sign up here, and I'll leave that there before this podcast comes out.
Oh, great. Okay? Yeah, that's a great idea. So go check that out, folks. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I pray to God that our officials and folks start coming to their senses. Compounds that God put on this planet for us to heal are sacraments. And I love all religions. I love all people. But if this calls to you, what Bridger and I do, please reach out. And, 6 years ago, Whiz, if I heard me say something like this, I would have kicked my own ass. These sacraments call to you. If you listen to this or watch this podcast and you're like, it is. If it didn't, it ain't. So it's usually it's usually an on or off. So, all right, folks, that's enough from us at the MAX Afterburner Podcast. Again, thank you for everything you're doing, Bridger and Brandy. God bless. Have a great rest of your day. Fights on. Namaste and Basi. Whiz out.